owner of Bent Motorsports, David Beckett, and his crew, Jacob Hunsinger, James Hernandez, and Jake Russo. Listen in as the guys discuss all things motorsports, including tech tips and current shop projects.
That shit tattoo just comes.
All right, guys, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of Bent Motorsports Podcast. We had a little bit of a long day today. There's some fires locally. We weren't going to talk about the fires, but there are some. And it's,
Way to kill the mood, David.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a drag. It's on all of our minds right now. So some people being relocated, some friends put out of their house. But let's move into this. Let's get through our sponsors first, right, guys?
Yeah, we got some serious sponsors
today. We got Port Brewing again, throwing us some, what do we got? High Tide?
Yeah.
Indian Pale Ale, which is pretty sick. Some of the guys are enjoying that beverage right now.
What's that one? I haven't tried that one yet.
Cal Spirits is right next door to us. It's a distillery, and they've gone ahead and given us a little sample. What do we got, James?
This is a small batch handcrafted California bourbon whiskey, the limited edition.
Yeah, so come over. These
fancy.
guys are making some pretty crazy cool alcohol over there, and I know that you people like alcohol, so why would you not come and check it out?
I practice temperance.
I don't know what that means.
He might even give you a discount if you mention the Bent Motorsports podcast.
Here, pour some for me.
So, here everybody's gonna try a sample of that right now. So this show could go
one of two
a
ways,
really
basically.
weird direction later because we've got two alcohol sponsors this week. Some recap from last week. Some things we've done in this since the last podcast is that a pour I hear happening over there?
Yeah, that's the smooth sounds of a California small batch bourbon whiskey.
I love it. James actually did go to the auction last Friday.
We did it.
And for the first time, and he was successful. Just tell us real quick about it. We can go into it a little deeper later.
Don't say successful just yet.
It was pretty crazy. Definitely a lot of guys there, biker gangs. Actually, more than one gang, I want to say. And it's really hectic, really fast-paced, not a lot of information, kind of designed to throw you off, I think.
Right.
So they have the upper hand. But no, if you can sack up and go there and keep calm and trust yourself, you can apparently get a 96 328 IS BMW for $525 and walk away.
$525 and get yourself a BMW.
Yeah, and we've kind of done we ran the numbers, we got a part list, and we're going to throw some pretty trick parts on it too, and I think we're going to be on the road registered for less than 500 more, definitely.
So under a G, and you get yourself a running car, and I know you're going to rally it.
Oh, I'm going to beat the crap out of it.
Which is good. That's what we need to do. Well, let's finish the recap. I think the only other thing we need to talk about on the recap was we actually took the Jeep to Pinion Mountain. Did we? We hadn't talked. We talked. We were going to go on the last one, right?
Yeah.
So
and we were saying we were going to have video of it too.
Correct. Okay. So
I'm going to call you out on that.
The AV guy, our AV guy,
James,
had. I don't want to say any names, James, but our AV guy, James, who I will not mention.
he just gets so tired.
He gets tired. It's hard for him to get his little body out of bed in the morning. So
You didn't have a camera, and it was 7 in the morning on a Saturday.
I told you I was going to go to Best Buy at 8 o'clock at night on Friday.
So here's the deal.
Just saying.
Everybody knows the rules. 7 o'clock came around, and we left. Because you know the rules. We leave at 7, we leave at 7. So we went out there, and we had a great time. We had Brian in his JK. We had Marty in his TJ, and then me in the LJ. And it was a really fun day. It was a kind of a fun little trail. The only thing that's sketchy is Heart Attack Hill, which, you know, in retrospect, I look back at it, and I guess it's not that sketchy. But when you're there and the first step of the obstacle is to just fall off the edge for, 6 feet, it's sketchy. But we're going to go back out. And I think what we're going to do, and this gets us back onto the auction topic, is that we're going to go to the auction and try to find a four-wheel drive vehicle of some sort, whether it be a Cherokee or...
Yeah, what do you got on the list here? We
Well,
have
I got some lists here. There's right now there's one that's a 95 Grand Cherokee. There is also a 99 Grand Cherokee, and there's a 2004 Grand Cherokee. So apparently Grand Cherokees are cars that like to be impounded and then sold at
I
auction.
drive a Grand Cherokee.
You do drive a Grand Cherokee, actually.
You do drive Grand Cherokee, don't you?
How long until we buy that
What are
from
the
the
odds
auction?
of Jake parking incorrectly and getting his car impounded before one of us?
Pretty high.
Pretty high.
Pretty
So
high.
I
Just
think
from the
with
car you drive, not so much of what
Jake,
like
what's the transfer
person
case
you
of
are.
yours?
The transfer case in mine?
Yeah.
It transfers from too low to too high. It's pretty dope. It's two-wheel drive. It's pretty quick. And it's got this sweet aluminum center section. It's Dana 44, though, so...
But, okay, so Jake's Grand Cherokee is a two-wheel drive. So we want to go try to find something in the four-wheel drive world. And it could be anything. There's like little Isuzu Troopers,
Chevy
rodeos,
Tracker.
trackers. There was an S10, I think, in there. Any of those things that could potentially be four-wheel drive that we really don't care about beating the crap out of. And if we can get one for $500-600, then we're going to take it out to Pinion Mountain, and we're going to see if we can do Pinion Mountain in a stock four-wheel drive.
We're not going to see if we can do it.
Because it'll
We're going
make
to
it.
do it.
You know,
We're
it'll
gonna
make
do it.
it.
Even
Let's
if we
just
have to
jinx that
use-
right now.
Even
Let's
if
get
we
that
have
off
to
the
use
table.
a tow rope and drag it over obstacles, we're going to get it through there. So wish us luck on the auction, because that is going to be the video, and I'll make sure James is there, and I'll make sure we video the whole thing,
Oh, I'm happy to do it.
and it'll be sweet. So that's the plan.
I think the real challenge would be to go find, like, I saw a couple Nissan Altimas. I think that would be the real challenge, is see how far you can make it in a Nissan Altima.
I think that's more of a dune car. I think that's more of what it was built for, but we'll try it in the rocks.
See if we can
We'll
go
see.
up like Oldsmobile Hill and Glamis with
There
it.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was say Pinion Mountain Trail. I can tell you exactly how far you're going to get with a Nissan Altima.
To the first obstacle.
Right to the first obstacle, and then that's it.
What if you lift it?
I don't think you could lift it high
Still
enough.
to the first obstacle.
You got when you get to the squeeze. There's like this. You ever seen those little Zen gardens where they've got like all the perfect sand, and there's like a boulder here and a boulder here, and it's very Zen, right? Well, right before the squeeze is this. I call it this little Zen garden of boulders. That even our Jeeps, you've got to crawl over one or two of them to get to the squeeze. So I could see you in there trying to do like a 47-point turn. To
So
try
we
to
need
get your
rock
little-
sliders, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
What's the big deal?
Yeah, no big deal. I agree. No big deal. If we want to drag a Nissan Altima through it, I'm all for it. But
Me too.
we've got to make sure we skid plate at least the oil pan, because I don't want to be digging up oil out of the ground the whole time.
Or leave a car there.
Or leave the car there. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably a pretty good ticket fine for that. So auction, Pinion Mountain. We can touch on this L.A. to Vegas. I think we all did a little bit
I
of
like this
research
idea.
on that, right?
I'm really liking this idea.
Yeah.
So where is it? L.A. to Vegas or Barstow? We do Barstow to Vegas, right? I
What
think
if we
that's
do
technically-
San Diego to
That's San
Vegas?
Bernardino County, right?
Right.
You know, that classifies as L.A. San
Yeah.
Diego to Vegas?
Yeah.
It's real hard to find a dirt road unless you go out the 8 to, like, Superstition or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. What if we went that route?
I think we could do that route, but that's then a matter of time.
Yeah.
Do we have a week
Yeah,
or
that's
2
true.
weeks that we can take away to actually go do that versus something where we do like a Barstow to Vegas on the Mojave Trail, which people have already done. And
That
it's
sounds
mapped
awesome.
out,
Gotcha.
and you spend 2 or 3 days there and back, and it's a quick trip.
Got it.
I would like to do the long one. I mean, it'd be neat to go from the border all the way up,
Yeah.
and do very little pavement, but it's just a matter of time for this one.
Gotcha.
We can head up north, go through Idaho. all
Yeah,
the way
right.
to Canada.
Let's just do it. Let's just go
Let's
from.
do it. They have syrup there.
Yeah, let's just
I
drive around
love
the world.
syrup.
I went to Canada
go
last
hard
year.
on
It
my
wasn't
stomach,
always.
though.
It's not all cracked up to be. You
Oh,
know,
really?
My
Oh,
car
yeah,
got
you were
broken into.
so stoked about Whistler. Don't even
No-
lie.
no
I
syrup?
was. Our car
Until
got
you
broken
spent all
into
that
the
money.
first day we were there.
Well,
I
did you leave
had
your purse out on the seat?
my tool
Everybody
bag.
tells you to put it in the trunk.
My
Put
tool
that
bag.
Gucci
I
in
hid
the
it.
trunk.
I hid it. I had a Arctic cooler that got stolen. A tool bag that was probably had.
RTIC.
Yeah,
Those are
RTIC.
Canadians
Not to
who
not to drop any
gangsters.
sponsors, but yeah, I was pretty bummed. And we went to the Kings were playing up there against Vancouver, so we went to go see the game. And when we got back and went up to our room, we were like, "Well, the car window's smashed out, and there's probably about $800 worth of crap stolen out of it." So, way to start the first day in Canada. You know, good road trip. Good road
Well, there was
trip.
that one guy actually. Remember that he went to a junkyard and was like, "Hey, I have two." I don't know if he said he had $2,000, but he spent $2,000, built that whole. Remember that rat rod that we saw at
Yeah,
SEMA?
yeah.
Drove it all the way from Michigan to SEMA and then put it in the show. So he built it for $2,000, brought it down there, and it was pretty legit. I mean, it was a rat rod, so you're not. It's not exactly rust proof, but that was pretty cool.
It was all rust. is
Oh, it
what
was for sure all
It was
rust.
all rust.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was worried about making it rust proof. I think it was
Okay.
like the more the merrier. Let's just get as much as we can on this thing.
But I like this whole idea
It
of-
did look cool. I really dig that idea of like, let's see how cheap we can make this and how just ridiculous, because the thing was ridiculous. You
Yeah,
see
it
like
was.
chain that was welded to make the headlight hoops and just stuff like that. It was really cool.
So didn't some other guys do a Jeep thing, Road to Vegas or Road to SEMA or something?
I think so. I mean,
that's something
I didn't
also
watch
that's
it,
been
but
done, which doesn't mean because it's been done we can't do it either. Maybe we can coincide our little trip to Vegas and have it be our off-road trip to SEMA as well.
This will be great
Reno from the
Especially-
Rubicon to Vegas.
if we can build.
Oh yeah, go backwards. We'll go the other way. From us, we're southern, so
Yeah.
for us, we could go all the way up, do like the Rubicon Trail or something, and then come back down and go to Vegas, to SEMA from there.
I think we do a whole week where we go from here
I don't
to
think
Big
I want to
Bear.
spend a week with you guys.
No, I wouldn't
You
either.
guys suck.
That's probably a good idea.
Like because the Jakes would have to share a room
For sure.
Whenever we had to get a hotel, they would share a room.
David,
kinda
do I can
awkward.
share a room with you.
Well, if you're
It
good.
always smells like butts.
David.
Oh, it smells
You
like
behave.
David.
It smells like David. Everybody loves David.
All right, so moving on with this David thing, I come out in the shop today, and these guys are talking about songs that are punking me.
Oh my gosh.
No,
They're singing songs punking me. They're
you
talking
kidding
about
me?
songs
They're inspired
punking
by
me.
you.
Yeah, we're not punking you. We
it's
think you're
inspired?
the
It's
shit.
inspired
You
by
look up to
David.
me
Yeah.
about what it is. That's
Try
how
to
I'm
catch
gonna
me
spin this.
riding David, a classic.
Try to
I
catch me
mean,
riding David.
it's been a very
Get
merry
out of
David.
your system. Let's tell everybody. Sing your songs,
Let's
guys.
keep going with this.
Yeah, come on, sing it, James. James came up with a good one. And may I just add that we think about just recording everything that comes out of our mouth throughout the day, but it would be a very poor choice. So, we're just going to give you a couple of hit it from the top.
429 Davids giving you kisses.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Man,
Or the famous Alan Jackson song of "David Let Me Drive."
Yeah,
You know?
that's a good one. Or David, take
an
the
old
wheel.
wood
That's
boat.
a good one.
What was that one?
What, David, take the wheel. I don't know, something like
that's
that.
a good one.
Yeah.
There you go.
didn't you got, what was the
fast.
Lego one?
Everything is David.
Everything is David.
You guys are idiots.
Hey, we got to pass the time somehow. Some of the jobs that come in here are just so interesting.
Yeah.
They can be tedious, that's for sure. We do a lot of wiring, jobs on these trucks, and wiring can drive you mad for sure.
Me and
So-
James had, and Jake. Jake was working on it too, but he was cleaning up a bit. But we had 18 LED lights that were wiring into a chase truck that has like the full box side bed on it, all the tools in like every single compartment, however many compartments there are.
So
and
every cabinet
Every
had
cabinet.
to have an LED light
On
under
each shelf.
under each shelf. That way, when
Yeah.
you open the thing, flick on the switch.
This is my
shelf
first
has it.
big foray into any sort of extensive wiring of a vehicle, and
And just because you own butt connectors and a crimper does not mean you can do wiring. Let me just add that. So if you think,
Okay, Jake makes good points, but we don't want to make everybody mad.
oh yeah,
at-
sorry,
okay,
sorry,
yeah.
my bad.
Jay,
All
We
we're
would
saying-
love to help
As
you
long as it works,
make
it's good.
your wiring better.
All we're saying is take your time, because if you don't take your time, your car can light on fire, and
We
nobody
have
wants
seen
their car
a
to
lot
light
of
on
cool
fire.
things. We've seen maxi fuses resoldered back together.
Oh yeah, we
Oh, that
actually
was a
have
good
that
one.
one still.
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
on
good
the
one.
wall of shame. Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Well, there's that cool graph. If you actually take like a 1/4-inch wrench, that's called like a 2,000 amp slow blow fuse. So
That's right.
you can use whatever
That's
you
right.
want.
You could, yeah, it really gets
oh, that's
the job
slow
done.
blow.
Or the Jeep with rock lights on it. And basically the way it was when you buy a set of rock lights, they're not always cut to length. So basically the extra length, like you probably use all the length going from like the back of the car to the front where you have it all collected. But when you go from like the driver's side wheel to basically your firewall, it's not that long of a run. So instead you just coil up all the wire into a big jumble and you just zip tie it all together and just stuff it in there. And
You
it's
just create a giant capacity.
yeah, and it's going to do fine. You know, they're just going to melt together. Then they become a little bit more. There's a little bit more current going through
Right.
it at that point when they're all crumbled together. It's,
So
it's
I
good.
know James is new, so we're gonna speak to James right now. Even
Yes,
though
please.
he probably knows this, and I know a lot of you out there listening know this.
guarantee you I don't.
But we're gonna just go ahead. We've been asked to incorporate a little more detail and content into our podcast, less just opinionated banter, but a little, throw in some facts here and there. Right? We get everything off the internet too, by the way, so we all know it's a fact. So when you're wiring up a light, for instance, let's say on your car or your whatever, your truck, you need a switch to turn that light on and off. Now, sometimes you're going to need a relay. So the object of the relay is to take the load, the heavy current for that light versus the switch, because most switches are not designed to carry a heavy load. So that's why you have a relay, which in essence is just another larger switch. So you can figure out the amperage of your light and then decide if you're just going to put in a big switch so that you don't need a relay, or you can put in a smaller switch that has smaller wires going to it and then have the relay mounted closer to the actual load so that you're not running these big wires all the way up into your dash to a switch and then all the way back out to the load. So the idea is to keep the relay kind of close to the battery and the light, and then have your switch just be what's switching the relay. So I know that seems super basic to a lot of people out there, but there's a lot of people I don't think know that.
I didn't know that.
That's just a very simple thing.
I know that you have to, what I know is that you have to have relays or things go wrong.
Right. So that's all it is. A relay is just another switch. It's just a switch that can take a heavier load, and that's all it is.
I know to check the relay when it doesn't work.
Yes, check the relay, pull it out, and switch it with your headlight relay, right? And
yeah, exactly.
There, my fuel pump's back on.
Nailed it.
So in essence, that's that. So there was some solid content. Any you guys have any specific technical data that you want to go over?
If you hate relays, and if any of that didn't make sense to you, then you should most definitely contact one of our good suppliers, Switch Pro, because you can eliminate fuses, you can eliminate relays, and I just tell you that having 8 circuits built into one device and having all the switches there, if that's something that you're into, that's something that you should
Switch
go
Pros
to.
kills it. It's all basically solid state. It's in a nice package. There's no fuse or relays. It's all on a circuit board.
And the buttons are classy.
The buttons are classy.
really
They have
nice.
so
The
many
buttons
different
are really
buttons. You
nice.
can use nitrous purge,
Well, it's like wiring made easy,
Cooler.
almost, because for somebody that wants to put 8 light bars on their Jeep, or you put all these accessories on there, you want it to be
8 light bars?
Yeah,
Who does
you never
that?
know. I've seen it.
The mall
Go to
parking
SEMA.
lots get pretty dim.
Yeah, they do. So it just makes it easy. It's like you pick a button, you choose it. It's like, all right, which wire goes to that button? All right, cool. This goes here to here, and then that's it. It's like it's simple.
It
stupid.
really is the way to go. I mean, the switching systems they have out there now, and the technology is pretty neat. I mean, we did a sandrail, I don't know, a month or two ago, whatever it was.
The yellow one? With
Yeah,
the LS?
so it's just the entire vehicle was run off of one Switch Pro panel, so 8 switches, and that would start the car and run everything he had and shut the car off, and you could operate that from your phone.
Yeah, if you
via
want to turn it
Bluetooth,
on.
so you could be sitting at your campfire,
Super cool.
fire the car up, let it warm up. You didn't even get out of your seat.
You can let the light strobe too, so in case you're stuck in a predicament where you're in the middle of Glamis and it's all
Need to
dark and
cause seizures.
Yeah, you need to
can
cause
turn
seizures. You
that
just
on.
make all
And
your
you
light
want a
bars at
party?
once flash.
Yeah, party in
Do you want to
Glamis, that's
party?
not a thing.
Yeah.
Who wants
So
to do that?
definitely hit us up if you have any wiring questions. We're happy to answer your questions. Call us.
We could do a question segment.
Yeah, we got
that'd be
Let's
cool.
give everybody David's number.
Yeah.
right,
555.
Everything
just
is
hit
David.
us up on the website, guys. You go to the website
1-800-DAVID-RS.
and you can shoot us a message or even do it on the social media too. We'll get to them and we'll answer them. Let's move on to another subject, and I don't know who brought this up, where we got the idea. If it was somebody who asked us, if it was one of you guys, but it was cars we've owned.
I think that was James, actually. James is pretty clever with this. Or was it Jake?
I think it might have been me.
I don't
honestly,
know.
don't say.
Actually, it was
You don't
me.
have to call me clever,
You
but
douche.
that's fine.
It was
How's that
me
working
for
out for you?
Sure.
And I don't know.
It was
Not
me for
being
sure.
clever.
Couldn't
Not
tell
good.
you.
It was me, damn it.
So cars we've owned. So let's do that. Let's do cars we've owned, and then maybe what was the favorite car we've owned,
What was the
and maybe
worst?
what was the worst car we've owned, and then maybe even what car are we the most regretful for selling or getting rid of.
Or which car could you not wait to get rid of?
Right, and Rusev, since this was your topic, why don't you start us off?
Do I just list through every single one?
Yeah, dude, just blaze through them.
All right. So
I mean, how old are you?
23.
Okay, it's not going to take that long, guys.
I'm getting close to double digits now. So
That's
let me start off.
It's my
First
time.
car I was driving probably 30 or 40 miles every day.
don't need the backstory. Just
Yes, you
name the
do.
damn
Yes, you
cars.
do. I was trying to be safe. So 30 to 40 miles pretty much every day to hockey practice. So my mom was obviously like, you're 16, you need a safe car. So she wanted to get the Scion TC. And I was like, no, screw that. I'm not a woman.
You're 16 and you're a woman?
Yeah. And so I ended up opting out and having the alternate of the Lancer. So I got a Mitsubishi
How
Lancer.
is that a safe car?
It's safe. It was new.
it was
It
front-wheel
was legit.
drive?
No, it was front wheel drive.
Front-wheel
I
drive.
drove that thing up to Big Bear, and it was
17
probably the
with, like,
most
a
fun I
barbed wire
had.
tattoo.
And it was cool because I had a good friend that his cousin lived up there, and this guy used to babysit me when I was like 3 years old, you know? So my mom was like, oh, Eric's up there, it's fine, you know? So me and my buddy drive up there. We're 16, like, don't even know how to get there, first of all. I think we still had to use MapQuest because the iPhones weren't even big then, you know? And we drove up there, sketchy. It was all snow and ice, and I'm sliding all over the road in a front-wheel drive car. And so, anyway, totally off track. But that was my first car. It maybe had 150 horsepower at most. You know, a little four-banger. I had the big.
Oh, was that the OZ Rally one?
No. It was a newer one
that's
than
the
that. It
four-wheel
looked more
drive
like
one.
more like the Evo X's. The 10.
Got it.
So it was
Okay.
one of those, and I had the big fart can muffler on the back of it. You know,
Yes,
cold air
stainless,
intake. The thing was
badass.
super fast. So after that car, 98 Tahoe, which I said last week, I wish I would have never sold it because I would have been a pretty prime candidate to fix up or lower and make
Lower.
it look legit. And then let's see, what was after that? I sold that probably in 2012. Then I dabbled into the BMW world, and I haven't really left since. So
Sadly.
yeah, sadly, very sadly. So that was in
There's no cure.
1990. There's no cure.
There's no cure.
Even
Just
James
more
is a part of it
cowbell.
now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
So
now
that was-
James has a BMW, so he's
yeah, I've rubbed off onto James a little bit.
Oh,
I'm really
I
sorry.
was on the E36 for a while. You should
Okay.
see.
No,
over-
I was the first one. No, I was the first
I
one.
was the first one. So 1990 325, that was probably like 2012. I just sold that car probably within the last year. After that was a 1999 328i 5-speed. That was a legit car. 5-speed. It had like 130,000 miles on it. And that was one of the cars I think I regret selling that in the Tahoe. So after that, I sold that, and 3 days later, my buddy hit me up and was telling me about this 5 Series that was for sale. It had a blown motor. The guy wanted a couple $100 for it. So there I was 2 days later with a couple grand in my pocket going up to buy this thing. And
What's your Instagram? Jake from State Farm?
Jake_ from State Farm.
Got
30.
it. If you want to go on there, you can see. It's actually, I'm not really a BMW guy, but he does take good care of this. It's pretty clean.
I try.
yeah, it's
I try.
a nice vehicle, that's for sure.
So yeah, my $200 car. Eventually, now it's probably up to maybe like $3 or $4 grand that I have into it. So it's still pretty budget friendly, you know. But I mean, I take that thing everywhere. Really, it's my daily now. Car after that was my 2002 M3. I just sold that, as you guys know from last week. So as of right now, it's all hands on deck to start getting the 5 Series up to standard. But I don't know. I'd say number one car I wish I never sold. It's kind of a tie. I mean, I do miss the E30. That thing was a go-kart. Whatever way you look at it, it was a
What
go-kart.
was the license plate on that guy?
I don't want to say.
Okay,
It was
just curious.
SAF E30, and that stands for slow as Fook E30. So
Not a
200.
joke.
The thing had like 260,000 miles on it. I think I drove it to Arizona and back like once, I think, but that was still like a 1,500 mile round trip. I drove it up to Monterey Bay, and there and back. That was another like 600 both ways, or like one way.
Monterey? I think it's like, 480-ish.
So what's,
Yeah,
the,
so-
what's the oldest car you've owned?
That's the current one right now. The one that I daily
What year is
drive
it?
is the 1983.
83.
Yeah. So
All right.
it's an oldie, but I gotta say,
Oh, it's old, all right.
I bought
For you,
I
it's
bought the
great.
motor.
You were born in
yeah,
83,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
When
No,
we-
no. 11
83
years after
plus,
that, even.
yeah.
Oh, the 90s? Well, I'm so
Yeah.
old.
And so, going completely off topic, there's actually a car show that just happened last week that's called Radwood. And it's up in Anaheim, and actually everybody dresses up like they were from the 80s or 90s, you know, and like tracksuits and stuff, and everybody goes around at a car show.
So they all
Did
just
you
dress
guys
like me?
wear
Yeah,
fucking
basically.
tracksuits
Yeah.
in the 90s? What?
It was pretty legit. I'm bummed I missed it. I was out of town, but next year when that comes around, I'm definitely going.
So your favorite car is the one you're driving.
Yeah,
The one you
for
wish you hadn't
obvious
gotten rid
reasons.
of was the Tahoe.
Yeah, because I could see that turning into either like a bagged, maybe even have an LS in that. I don't know. If I would have kept it and I would have known about
Pre-runner that
cars.
thing out?
Either pre-runner or bagged. I
Nice.
really dig how those things look. They just look like sleds when you bag them to the floor.
Yeah.
you
Pretty
know?
badass.
I don't
They
know.
are.
I dig it. Or, I mean, I
I
like the
slammed
Suburbans
Dodge
too.
for a while.
Yeah,
I
you
know.
did.
That thing was legit.
That
I
was
like that
legit.
thing. So, moving on from my crappy cars.
What about
let's go on to
James?
somebody else.
I've owned
All of
upwards
them.
of 15 vehicles in my life. My first car was a Volvo 940 SE.
It's a little tiny, like
91
bubblegum wrapped like turbo on it.
It looks like a snail.
great.
It's about the size of an apple.
Nice.
And again, my brother-in-law, who got me into off-roading and stuff, was directly responsible. That thing was sitting in somebody's backyard for God knows how long, and they said, "Oh, if you can start it, you can take it." He put a new battery in it and drove it away that day. So
Nice, that's rad.
then we parked it at the bottom of my yard, and every time he'd come over, we'd take that thing and go out back and jump it and rage through the dirt fields. And I had a really sick BMX bike, and he wanted
Is that
it.
a Haro? That was for
It was
sure
a
a
Haro.
Haro.
It was a Mira 540. It was so dope.
Oh, it was a Mira?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a Haro Mira 540.
Oh, got it. We're neighbors,
when
if you
Dave
didn't
Mira-
know.
yeah?
So we've both had experiences in this terrible dirt field.
Yeah, I know. It's been great. But yeah, I traded that bicycle for that car, and I sold it a little while after that. And then a long while after that, when I owned one of my favorite cars, which was a 95 Jeep Cherokee Sport.
Oh, gosh.
Which was awesome. We crashed that thing real bad. Mm-hmm. But I was looking for parts for that car, and I found my my Volvo in the junkyard. And I kicked the mirrors off and stole the badges. And
Yes.
they're still on my desk at home, and it's awesome.
May I just add that Cherokee got crashed into like a 60-year-old pine tree that was 4 feet wide, and we both
At
broke
like
the windshield.
At least 40.
Yeah, we have a video of it, actually. If you want to find my
yeah.
Facebook and add me, there's a video of us crashing that. That was exciting.
Don't
So-
try and get popular just from your stupidity back like 5 years ago.
No, let's make him famous for that.
I would like
Oh,
that.
so you're
Yeah,
supposed
everybody
to be
else gets to
popular.
get famous off stupidity. Go on, though.
I'm going to skip all the boring ones. I did have a 98 Ford Explorer. This is the only one boring one that I'll talk about. And it drove forever. I went up and down the coast at least 12 times, out to Montana and back. And I sold it for $55. And I bought my friend's breakfast with it at the Tin Shed in Portland, which is how most of my cars have died, actually. Tried to do a motor swap one time. Owned a 81 Econoline and a 79 Bronco. Trying to get that 300 CID out of there.
Oh, yeah.
And swap the motor because I bought a $1,400 van with a blown head gasket because I'm an idiot. And that didn't work, and it wouldn't have worked no matter what. But the bell housing on the transmission cracked when I was putting it in. But even if I did it right, I pulled the distributor from one and just slammed it in the other one because this is when I had no idea how cars work.
just put this in.
What's
it plugs
top
right
dead
in.
center?
I was just like, and done. Like, good, distributor swapped. Sweet.
Maybe watch a YouTube video next time.
I know.
yeah.
I was in the woods at that time. I was doing this motor swap in one of my friend's garages. He was just like, "Go for it!" And I remember the landlord showed up and saw two old cars and a young man covered in grease and a tank top, and she was just like, "What is going on?" And she
Weren't you actually
flipped
like
out.
embodying Chris Farley at the time by living down by the river in
I
your
wasn't.
van?
I wasn't divorced.
In a van.
Oh, okay,
No.
got it. You weren't
No,
divorced,
not
so
down
it's
by the
fine.
river.
Close enough.
I did make that joke more than once when
Sweet.
I did live in that van.
I think we need a whole segment just on the backstory of that because there was cars
It's
being towed
pretty
places.
good
It was a
story.
good story.
Yeah,
I
it's
got to
pretty
say, I
wild.
heard it once and it was mind-boggling.
So, the first sports car I owned was a '98 Firebird, which
Wait.
was
Wait,
Should we categorize
T-top?
sports car? Do we
Yeah,
need to go over
that's like
definitions of sports cars?
Somebody buys a
Pontiac
Camaro
Fiero.
with a V6, so you're badass.
well, it did have the V6.
That's,
did have
that's
the V6.
exactly my
It had the
point.
Buick 3800.
Let's let James have this one.
Okay.
Let's let him have this
Super sport.
It
Sports
had-
car, got it.
It had 200 horsepower, dude, and it had a second gear start button. Why? I don't know, because it just made so much torque, bro. All the torques. That was great. I totaled that thing on the Klamath River Highway early one morning. Yeah, just kind of caught the tail end in the dirt, did a 360, and
Happens.
threw myself into the wall.
Happens.
So, yeah. I actually wasn't driving fast. I was driving fast before that, and I made a conscious decision. I was like, don't drive so fast down this road, and I just wasn't paying attention. I crashed it anyway. So that was fun. And then the same one that I wish I never bought and I wish I never sold was my truck, my 81
yeah.
Toyota
Classic.
SR5 4x4 Helix.
That truck. You brought that truck in here before.
Oh my gosh, I love
I love that truck, and you
Yeah.
got rid of it.
It was badass.
I could.
I
Like,
would have taken that truck from you, man.
I know.
would've-
I
yeah.
should have offered it to you.
I would've
Because then
so
at least
bought
it would
that.
have stayed in the family. But
Because then I would have
This
parked
weird
it out
family
front
that
and
we
just made
have.
you look at it every day.
that
Hey,
would've
remember that
hurt.
truck you had? Now it's mine. Isn't
Yeah,
that
I
sweet?
did it badass.
It would have been right below the Willys
Can
right
you
there.
add the little story by the motor swaps and things from that, though? I like that story
So
because I was
then
involved.
I had that
I'm
truck,
awesome.
and we found out that it was kind of a hack swap.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this guy swapped a 22 RE from a 95 into that because that originally comes with the 22R,
22R, so same motor, just carbureted.
Yeah. So we started to poke around. We're like, oh, this is not such a hot like swap in this thing. So I
There's some
found
dumb shit on that car.
again. Yeah, totally. I was poking around on Craigslist and I found a 1985 Toyota Celica.
Yes. I
For,
remember that car too.
For like $500 or
It's
$600
still around.
bucks.
Oh, it's still there.
I went down there. The guy didn't want to take less, and I put the money in his hand and said, "I will have this out of here by the end of the day." If you and he said, "Done." And
Nice.
They started off. They just like showed me that it turned over and stuff, and I was like, "All right, let's go." So we found out that had like just blown cylinders. I don't know what was wrong with
It's
it,
like,
but
I don't know, 60 PSI, and then like the middle two cylinders and the outside
running
like
on 2 cylinders.
70 PSI. It was dope.
so bad. So
But it ran, so who cares?
we were
It could've
talking
been
about it,
timing.
and it's a
or
really
cam gear.
neat.
No, we
like,
compression tested each cylinder.
Yeah,
that
no,
shit
it was
just
trash.
done.
It was totally trash. So it was super neat. We decided that we were going to swap the motor from the truck into the Celica because
Well, what caused that? So we bought the truck. What was wrong with the truck that we wanted to change the motor into the Celica? Because I don't recall that
the
part.
truck said it was 4x4, but when I bought it, the guy said, "Oh, you just have to hook up the front drive shaft." Well,
Got it.
the front drive shaft wasn't long enough, and the back one was extended so far that the teeth were eating out on the slip yoke.
So it was lifted up.
Got
It
it.
had been lifted.
Only,
and then,
only slightly, but
Oh,
but
so
yeah.
enough to
transfer
mess
was
up the
done.
drive shafts.
Yes, beautiful textbook. I lifted my truck, and I'm not going to finish it and sell it.
Got it.
So that was going to be $900, and I was like, I want a rally car. So we swapped. So Jake and I won. Like, it was seriously Thursday, and we're like, hey, I think we can do this. I think
Yeah.
we can do this in a weekend. So we jumped on. We jumped on it, and 3 days later, we were done. I worked all through the night. And on Tuesday, I smogged it, and it was smog legal. So we actually pretty much nailed that.
Yeah.
Totally nailed that.
That's pretty good.
But that, I think, was pretty much all of the interesting
Well, if you
ones.
go on Trophy Burrow, you can actually find a video of the Celica getting pretty swifty down in where was that at? Grapevine Canyon?
Grapevine Canyon and Zaborrego.
Oh, yeah.
That car's famous.
He actually decided to rally it, and it was both the life and death of the Celica is rallying it. So it was pretty badass.
So what happened to the Celica now? Let's get a little backstory. I don't know if that's touchy or not, but like, what is the plan
We kicked
for
the
that?
dash in.
Yeah, it's sitting completely gutted in the bottom of my backyard right now on standby because
thing? Gotcha.
the motor trans combo I want is $1,200 and BMWs at auction are $500.
But maybe you should
Priorities.
start flipping some of these auction cars, make a couple $100 on each auction car, and then eventually you could have $1,200 to put into the Celica.
Yeah, or I could just drive the crap out of this BMW.
I think there's too many
This is what
things
I
in
deal with
between
every
doing
day.
that. You know, it's
David.
like, okay, I'm gonna buy an auction car for $500. Okay, cool. I sold it for $800. Then you're like,
Well, now I'm going to go buy an $800 auction car.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's what you guys
So,
do.
yeah, I mean, you can work the system like that, do a little pyramid scheme going on, but I
Trading
think
up.
there's too many things where you're like, all right, I just sold that car for $800. Cool, let me go back to the auction. Then you just spent like $300 on whatever, and then you buy another $500 car, and then you like do the process all over again.
I'm not against it.
I'm not
So-
either. I think it's a good idea. You know, why not try out some new
I
things?
know some of Jake's answers for this, but hit us.
Yeah, let's hear it, Jake.
Okay, so as well as James, my life started on the Craigslist. So if you ever need like a hand on how to run through Craigslist when you're 15 up
Well,
until
just so you guys know, too, I did all this, too, when I was younger, but it was called Auto Trader.
Oh, yeah.
And it was,
Oh,
a,
yeah,
it was,
that
it was a
still
periodical
there.
that you had to go buy for 99 cents at 7-Eleven.
I still remember
you can
doing
still go to
that.
like Albert Taco still has
What
it. Like
are
there's a few
this?
places that has that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty dope.
My
but
dad bought an FJ62 like back in
Really?
the day.
That's
off the
badass.
Auto Trader, and I remember he paid like $3,000 for it, and it was like pretty pristine, roll bar lifted. You know, the nice. They pretty much looked like trailer wheels, but they were the chrome ones. You know, it was like desert tan color, but that thing was badass. If I would have known that,
62
what I know
is
now,
rad.
Yeah.
They only go for like
This is Jake's
$500
segment.
now.
Okay.
So.
I know it is, but I mean, I'm just saying what the way those cars
Thanks,
are
James.
now.
No, shut up.
And he keeps
It was
going.
$3,000.
No, seriously, shut up.
You know, and what are those worth now?
No, nobody cares.
Tell
about
me.
$3,000 probably.
Tell me. No, more. All right, go ahead, Jake. You can tell us about your cars. Go ahead.
All right, so I mean, I'm from Southern California, and I kind of embodied the whole
I'm a
Orange
single
County
male.
idea of that's funny. Oh, let's buy a pre-runner, or as long as it looks like a pre-runner, it's cool too. So, you know, I was looking at a couple trucks. You know, this Nissan's got a tube bed, it's badass, but stock suspension. I don't know, it was pretty dumb. So instead, I decided Baja Bugs because they've been made for 30, 40 years. Parts are cheap. I'm pretty cheap. I don't know anything about Baja Bugs. So I bought some book, kind of read half of it, and was like, screw it. I'll just buy this Super Beetle. 73, baby blue, rusted out floor pan, but the interior was pristine. Bought it. Guy said something was wrong with the piston. Oh, it probably just needs like a new bolt or something. Because at the time, I was kind of an idiot. So bought that.
At the time, guys.
Yeah, at the
Not
time.
now.
Not now, for sure not now.
Right.
Yeah, that had a thrown rod, and I don't know how you throw a rod in like a 40 horsepower Volkswagen, but the guy did it. So I cut part of the floor pan out, decided I was going to fix it, decided I wasn't going to fix it, and sold that for like half of what I bought it for. Very poor decision, and moved on to the 96 Ford Ranger.
Which is a legend.
That's a legend. Crashed it a couple times. There's a place down here called Cougar Pass. It's like the only dirt road in San Diego County outside of like, I don't know, Julian or the desert that you can drive on. So
And it is dangerous.
it's pretty dangerous. It's
Yeah.
cliffside.
We used to ride three-wheeler ATCs up and down that.
Yeah.
It is skinny, the turns are tight, and the canyons are steep.
Yeah, that's very true. So
The
that
recipe for
suffered,
disaster.
I don't know, 3 or 4 brake lights and some fenders and things like that. Actually crashed that guy, and I hit some lady going like 45, and she was at a stop. So the whole motor and transmission decided to shift forward about a foot. So, but put that back together.
Not a problem.
Not a problem. I can fix it. That's fine. New tranny cross member, new drive shaft, new motor. It's fine. It's cool. Joined the Army, decided to sell that guy for like $200, cracked windshield because I got angry one day or something like that. Bought this sweet 93 Mitsubishi Galant. That was awesome. Another $500 buy that barely ran, smoked when you hit the accelerator. That was sweet. Had this huge crease down the side because somebody decided to like hit the guardrail. That wasn't me. Every time you touch the dash, you got a sweet new cup holder because it would just disintegrate. So that was pretty awesome. Shifted that into reverse at 75 one time because that just happens. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
How do you miss a shift in reverse?
Well, it was an automatic.
It was
so-
automatic.
Oh, you trying to do like a bat turn or something and missed it?
I don't know.
Whatever. All right, cool.
Yeah. So after that guy, I decided I should actually finance a car because maybe I'll take care of it. So I bought a 2001 F-150 4-wheel drive. It was sweet. It was torsion. Added some subs to that. That was nice. That was a nice car. Drove that one.
I like that truck.
That was a good truck. Drove it from North Carolina all the way out to California. Blew out a tire in Texas because I decided a sidewall patch was a good decision. After
Always a
someone
good way to go.
slashed my tires, so I almost rolled that guy
You'd
at
want to
70.
do that to your car.
I'm just such a sweet guy. I don't know. Got rid of that guy.
I want to slash his tires.
Yeah, hey, that's rude. You're my boss. This is a hostile work environment. Bought a 4Runner. If you guys that actually worked out pretty well. Put a little bit of money into that. It turned into a pretty capable off-roader, you could say, with when
$800 worth of
yeah
junkyard swap.
If you just
Bilstein
spend a little
Fox
bit of time
mixture.
online and see all these different combinations that people use of suspension, I don't know, shock springs, things like that, upper control arms really weren't necessary. But you can make a pretty capable rig. It's just the time to actually explore. If you buy a car, odds are somebody else has already tried the things that you want to do, and you can find out what it is that you need to do, whatever that is, So it doesn't really cost that much. It's Land Cruiser springs. What was it?
Tundra?
Yeah,
I think Tundra shocked.
No, the TRD front coils. Oh, yeah. I bought some Bilstein, the 4100s, or I can't remember what they were, but they worked actually very well. We worked in the washes a little bit at Tierra del Sol. We went over in some of the canyons, and it was the same with the little Daystar lift that Dave was running for a while. It's a pretty capable rig. So
Dude, I remember that we went out there and I was in mine with my little Daystar setup.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, man, Dave's still behind us. Well, guess who was behind me? Jake.
Killing it.
4Runner. Killing it.
So that was
rad.
fun. That was great. I mean,
Ripping e-brake.
Yeah.
Poor man LSD up stuff that people were full locking, and they're like, you'll never make it. And
oh yeah. I forgot about that. The
Yeah.
waterfall down at on the other side of what is that? What's that? The main road right there by Charkhaven.
I don't know.
Oh,
That's 22 or
If
something.
you go up that one, you can find this little obstacle called the waterfall, which is like hard rock and then sand. So it's not exactly the easiest thing to get up when you don't have a locker or any of that. But a little e-brake control, and you can get up that pretty easy. So after that guy, I sold him to kind of move on with my life, and I need a truck, so I bought a CJ5.
Because you needed a truck. So
I needed a truck.
get a CJ5.
which
I bought the
great
smallest
condition.
vehicle ever. It worked, and then the cat was clogged, so I decided to redo the wiring harness. Wait a minute.
Yes, you can see now,
Yeah, I
folks,
remember
where
the
his
sequence.
decisions go.
Yeah, what does that have to do with each other? I don't know, but that was a good decision. Sold that guy, and now I drive a two-wheel drive 97 Cherokee.
Two-wheel drive.
I couldn't hear you on that one. What was
Which
it?
he
90s.
went and bought without me, by the way.
But that's okay, because we took off so many parts off of my LJ that we're just going to bolt them onto his and make it four-wheel drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully.
So,
So that'll be another shop project.
Oh, but back to actually, I missed one car. My grandfather, he had a '62 Ford Falcon Ranchero.
Oh, that's like probably the most, I don't know, not important car, but I
It is
thought
the
that
most-
one
it
was
is
the
the most
most
important car.
rad that you've ever had.
Definitely the car I should not have sold. It had a '74, Ford Maverick 302 swapped into it. It's kind of a dog because I think it still had a 2-barrel carb. We had a big issue trying to get it to turn on because points are
because
stupid.
we don't understand how points work.
Yeah, points
Well,
are a pain in the
don't
ass.
lump me into that.
Hey, you told me to
I
change
know.
the starter solenoid, all right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
one.
but I know how
one
points
choice.
work.
Well, okay, fine. Well, we just didn't know that.
Just because I stand in the shop and stare out there laughing at you guys trying to figure it out doesn't mean I don't know how to do it.
He's
It
like
just
a-
means that I want you to learn the way I learned.
He's like a father figure,
Right.
kind of an asshole, but I guess he's helpful or something. I don't know.
And he hits
Yeah.
But we
Exactly.
respect him and we
And
make
this is why you
songs
make up
about
funny
him.
songs about me.
Well, I sold that guy also because I was going through some money issues, and James told me, he was like, don't sell this car. You're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. And I hate to say it,
James
but
just
I
wanted to
do
turn it
regret
into a rally car.
No,
That would've been a pretty cool
that
rally
would have
car.
been slammed and getting sideways at
Yeah.
autocross or something.
It had
Yeah.
some like
Autocross
ancient
would be
cool. With a
radials on
5.0.
it, so
I think
even
a
like
5.0
the
would've been-
poorly tuned carb let it do some like sweet power brakes and stuff like that. So
It burned out too.
So
Yeah.
that's the one you regret selling.
I do because I can still see it in my mind. It's like those. What are the NASCAR trucks? You're a NASCAR guy, right? I'm gonna bash on that again.
Craftsman Truck Series.
Am I,
Sorry,
am
Marty.
I a NASCAR guy?
But you like going in circles,
Well, I talk in circles a lot.
Yeah.
All right, David.
All right, guys.
This
so you
might
guys
take
are
a
giving
while.
the highlights. You're giving the highlight. If I give you just the highlights, it's going to be like 15 cars.
Holy moly.
So let's list them off just really quick. Don't
Let
even
me
go
just
into
run- let me just
don't even
run-
go into
let me just
backstory
run
about
through
it.
these real fast, and I'll go back to them. These are like the ones that I can remember. 76 Honda Civic, 72 Ford Custom Pickup, 73 to 76 Spitfires. I
An
think I had 4 total.
1836 Rock.
1969 Bronco, 1990 Jeep YJ, 98 Jeep Cherokee, 06 Jeep LJ. I had a 73 Mach 1. I had an 07 Dodge Mega Cab, an 86 Dodge Utility Ram, an 02 Dodge Ram, a 97 Dodge Ram Extra Cab, 02 Dodge Dakota, 97 Ford F-250.
kept buying,
You want me to get into bikes now, too? Then I can get
kept
into
buying
motorcycles?
Dodges there for a second.
Wait, did you have? Was it the D250?
I'm a Dodge guy, okay, guys? You know that now.
Yes,
I'm a Dodge
thank
guy.
God.
Chrysler,
But
right?
no diesels. What an idiot.
Because he
Was
has
it
a
the
Jeep and a
utility-
Kia
Yeah,
and a
remember,
Ford
man,
now.
I'm Poe, okay? I didn't have all the cool... These are like, the stuff I could get into. Out of
He
all
owned
those
a
vehicles...
Celica, so he knows about just being
Okay.
able to barely get into something.
Out of all of those cars I just listed off, the 2007 Dodge Mega Cab was the only one that I bought brand new from the dealership.
Wow.
That's the only one. The 76 Honda Civic was my first car, and back then it wasn't called a Civic. It was called the Honda CVCC.
And what did that stand for? Central.
Continuous Vortex Combustion Chamber. So everybody just called it a Civic because that's what it sounded like.
Civic.
So then Honda finally changed the name to Civic because that's how we all said it over here. But back then it was you drove a Honda, a little Honda, a piece of crap
Civic.
Honda. That thing got mashed. I think I successfully totaled the first 5 or 6 vehicles I owned.
Nice.
Like totaled.
Nailed it.
Yeah, like
Completely.
wrecked them completely. My 69 Bronco is probably the one I regret selling the most.
You wrecked that?
Absolutely.
Like
I wrecked
actually
it.
wrecked it?
I
Or
rolled
you,
it.
Well, yeah, but then there was some other part of the story too, right?
Well, I rolled it, and then I got it going again, and I was driving it for a while after I rolled it. And then, mind you, I don't know, how old was I? 18, 19 years old when I had that thing. And it was on 44s. And
Super Swampers.
That's a big tire.
and had a huge lift on it, and I the engine would get hot. It was a bit pretty hopped up 302 in it, so I just took a saw and cut a huge hole in the hood just so that it would let heat out. I mean, I was not nice to this thing, and so one day my radiator went out, and all right, well, I'll change the radiator. So I got a new radiator, and I thought I'm going to upgrade, and I got a nicer radiator, aluminum.
They made aluminum back then?
Yeah. Back in the day, there was aluminum.
That's rad.
It comes from the dirt, so we had stuff. Anything that came from dirt, we had. So I spent I'm still learning about working on cars. I had already gone through a few nightmares with this truck because I didn't know how to do things. But I got that on there. Well, when you lower this radiator down in there, this aluminum one didn't quite get in the bottom of a radiator. There's these little cleats that the radiator just kind of cups into, and it didn't bolt. It only bolted at the top. And so I put this aluminum radiator down in there, and I thought it had clipped into its little cleats, and it apparently had not, because then I thought, all right, it's perfect. I was idling it, got it all. I'm going to test drive it around the block, and I got it out of the driveway, and I hammered it. And the centrifugal force took the bottom of the radiator and just launched it right into my flex fan and just shredded it. Blasted. And right out the hole in the hood that I cut for heat was just spewed antifreeze and coolant right up over the top of my Bronco and blazed it. So I brought it back down into my garage and proceeded to beat the living crap out of it with a 5-pound sledgehammer.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
Oh, my gosh.
I sledgehammered the whole car.
Yes.
And then back in the day, what you did was then you took a picture of it and put it in Truck Trader. And I put it in as parts only because back then it was 65 and older for smog exempt, and mine was a 69. And there was no way it was going to pass smog. So I just sold it for parts. And I spent a whole weekend with guys coming up and just lowballing me on parts. Guys who knew what they were getting, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, $20 for that rear end, sure, thanks. Could have got $500 for the rear end.
Oh,
whatever.
that's brutal.
Gone. So the thing was gone. So I regret that the most. That was probably the
He's the
worst
kinder,
experience.
gentler David now. So
Yeah,
that's what he says, at least.
That's why we make songs about him.
That's why he
Exactly.
makes songs about me.
We're proud of him.
Oh my gosh, my Mach 1 was cool. I had a '73 Mach 1. It was
That's bad, eh?
It was on this guy's property. He had a little apartment complex, and in the back over in Vista, and there was literally weeds. It was one of these cars where weeds were growing higher than the car. I had to hack down the weeds to find the car. And he goes, "There's a car behind my apartment complex in the weeds. If you can get it out, you can have it." Well, I worked at a wrecking yard at the time, and we had a little rollback tow truck. So I got this thing back down in there and crawled in there and hooked it up and winched it out onto the thing, and it was a '73 Mach 1. And it had
legit.
all the cool stuff on it. Pinion snubbers. It had the 351 Cleveland engine in it. It had the factory 4-barrel. It was a nice car, and I basically cleaned up the outside, did a Jake Russo on the paint job.
There you go.
The engine was fine, just needed to be tuned up and gone through the normal stuff. Put some fresh tires on it. I did buy a whole new interior kit. I think I got it on J.C. Whitney or something, and I put all new carpet and everything in it.
That was pre-Craigan, right?
Yeah, dude, there was no Craigan, dude.
So what year was this that you found this thing?
This would have probably been...
I'm talking like late 80s?
No. This was actually recent enough. This
Did
would
they
have
have
been...
microwaves yet?
They just come out with them.
Cold War had just ended.
What about
Cold
hot
War was
water?
just
Did you have hot water?
No, dude, I want to say that this would have probably been in the late 90s when I did that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, so it wasn't completely trash, though? I mean, that's a long time for a car to sit in a field.
Well, when it shut, the door shut. Yeah, that's why I redid the carpet on the inside and reupholstered the seats, because the interior was a little hammered. But other than that, the thing was, I think I ended up doing leaf spring bushings in it.
Okay.
Just little things. But that thing was wicked. That thing was fast as snot.
So the weeds growing around it acted like an easy up, like it protected
like
it
a
from the
cocoon.
sun. Yeah, like a little
Yeah,
cocoon.
it protected it. So, I mean, that was a cool car. I don't necessarily regret selling it because I sold that online. It had a good VIN number that had all the options, so I ended up making...
That was numbers matching?
Numbers matching?
I guess so. I don't know.
We were on the same page,
On
you
Fords,
damn
can you really
purists.
have a number matching car? I don't know.
Probably
There's some
not.
controversy about whether you can have a
Casting numbers
Ford
are so
wasn't
off.
very particular about making this numbers. Chevy was a little more
That's true.
On point with their serial numbers, so it's harder to. I think it's harder to prove a Ford number matching. But everything turned out. Everything was correct as far as I knew.
That's a good come up as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
What about your dad's
not
Dodge?
the prettiest.
I want to hear the
body
story
style,
behind your
but-
dad's Dodge.
Yeah, my
the-
dad's
the
Dodge.
lowered one.
That was an 02. So he had the 02 four-door short bed, Dodge Ram, 2500, and it was two-wheel drive, and he wanted to slam it. So he brought it over to my brother's shop at the time, and they did a proper suspension. They slammed it. They basically cut all the suspension off the front and refabbed it up higher, and then notched the rear frame and did kind of the same thing in the back. So it wasn't a kit or anything. It was full custom, but it was legit. And basically the truck drove just a few inches off the ground, and it drove like the regular truck because all the geometry was salvaged the way my brother did it. And it was a rad truck to drive. I guess I regret selling that too, but being that I go to the desert and we do a lot of stuff like that, having a slammed truck with a bed rug in it and a
It would have
tonneau
made it.
cover,
It would have made it.
It was not the right choice for us to have it around, so I ended up getting rid of that.
That truck was legit, though. I still remember that thing. That was like era of, like, right when you sold it was probably within the first year I was working here.
Yeah.
And I remember going in that truck and just thinking how legit it was, because it was like a lowered truck. I don't know. Not too many people that I know do that. And
Yeah, it looked good, dude. It was
yeah, it looked
debadged.
really
it was
good.
debadged. It was old school. My dad put like moon caps on it.
Steelies on
was-
it. I remember. Were
was
they
rad.
Steelies or were they just?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked legit. It was all
Yeah.
just white, and then it had the gray trim on the bottom, right?
Yeah, the gray little two-tone at the bottom.
Yep.
But I don't know, my favorite Dodge out of all the Dodge trucks I've had, because I've had, 5 Dodge trucks. The 07 Mega Cab was my favorite.
Yeah.
So big.
They're
They're
gigantic.
huge.
Four-wheel drive. It didn't have the diesel, but it
That's
was
okay.
it
We
was
still
four-wheel
love you.
drive. And that
lot.
was a neat truck. That thing went anywhere too.
I've been driving this 2001 Denali around for a while, and I've never driven like a big car around for an extended period of time, and I will not go back.
It's tough.
Of course, it's fun.
It's
You just
tough.
bought a BMW.
No. I was gonna say, of course, it's fun to own a coupe and everything. But if you want to, I was hanging out with my friend from Ireland. She comes over and she's like, "Why do you all own big trucks and blah blah blah? And like, why do you shoot guns and stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, one, because it's badass, and two, because why not?"
I'm a man.
So after a year, and then we had to drive, of course, 2.5, 3 hours, and they don't really do that over there a lot. So we were hanging out in what is a living room of a car, and
They're like cathedral halls.
It's amazing.
That's the way I like to think of them. It's
I
like a
love the
cathedral
leather.
hall.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Like
Big.
my Tahoe had all the subwoofers in it because I was cool in high school. It was like
Oh, gosh.
big old subwoofers, as loud as speakers as you can.
AOTP, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have like subs in the back of that thing, and it literally sounded like you were in a cathedral hall. It was like full on. I don't know. It just sounded insane because I think it would back off the back window. It would bounce off of it and just go straight to you. So I don't know. It was cool to be in there. It was super loud. Everybody, I don't know. I thought I had the loudest system at school because that was a cool thing, and I was all into cars.
You damn Sam
Oh, he's got
Pedro.
so
Yeah.
many dates, I bet.
No, not a single one.
How did that not work?
I actually crashed into somebody. It was a girl I knew. I got super lucky. I was driving home from high school.
Wait.
And I
You got super
crashed.
lucky with the girl?
No.
Oh.
No,
So wait,
no.
you're telling me
She was actually a good friend of mine, and so I'm driving home, and it's like bumper to bumper traffic, and I'm like trying to tune my stereo to be like as loud as possible, because there's people outside, and I thought
need
it was
more
cool.
hertz.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden I look up, and I'm like. It was like a RAV4, so I had the tire on the back, and all of a sudden I was in the back of her
Tugboats
car.
have tires on them. They're fine.
And I ended up crashing into her, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. I just messed up my car. I messed up this car. And then she got out, and I was like, oh, thank God, and then she was like, it's fine. Nothing happened. Like, are you good? I'm good. All right, let's go. Like, everybody left, and I was like, thank God I don't have an accident on my record, but that was one of my douchebag moments where I was like, why did I do that?
I had one of those. I think I was in, that was when I had my 1990 Jeep Wrangler, the YJ. And I was,
You had a YJ? Oh,
he had subwoofers
yeah.
in it.
Was that the American flag one?
No. That was that's Brian's. That was
you're
Brian's
right. Yeah, that one
CJ.
was so
Who had an
douchey.
American flag CJ?
Brian did.
We'll talk
You
about that
literally-
next
That's
episode.
a-
I need to
About
see
that one.
pictures of that.
It was his father-in-law's, and then Brian, I think, bought it from his father-in-law, and then he ended up selling it ultimately to get the JK that he has now. But I did one of those. I was behind somebody. You know, when you're stopping to turn right somewhere, you're watching the car in front of you, but you're also looking to your left to see, like, hey, is this guy going to go? And so I'm watching the guy in front of me, and he starts to go right. So I immediately look left, and I go, sweet, I can go too, because there's room. And I start going, and then I look to the right as I start going. Well, he didn't go. He was still there. Apparently, he
Backed out.
decided
He's what
he
we
was
call
going to
a
go.
creeper.
And then he chickened out and stopped. So I look, and then I bump into him. Not a huge deal, but I bumped into him right enough for him to. Well, ends up I work
have
with the
back
guy. The guy
pain.
works at the same place
Oh,
I
shit.
work, right? So whatever, we talk about it, and it's fine and everything. But then from then on, every time you see that dude at work, you're like, "Hey, how's your bumper? Did you ever get that fixed? Sorry, I freaking ran into it. You know,
Yeah,
my
pretty good.
apologies. Awkward.
I think that's probably about a tenth of how an accident happens is probably that exact same situation where somebody's pulling up to a light and the car in front of you doesn't go and you're thinking he did go and all of a sudden you're in his bumper and it's bad news. But I think that's legit how at least 10% of any accident happens.
You ever bait people?
Bait them?
Yeah, you look
No.
over and you see the person next to you on their cell phone clicking away, click, 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 and then and then you look over and you go, watch this, and you just let your car start rolling, so they go, oh no, we're going, and then they go and
Get fucking T-boned.
you ever bait it? Is that bad?
Get T-boned?
No,
Only
but I
if they're
like
in the
this.
front of the
This
pack.
is a new style.
No,
I'm
it
curious.
definitely messes with them. It's pretty
It
good.
weeds
That's
out the
hilarious.
people who need to be weeded out, I think.
There
It's
shouldn't be
true
talking
because
anyways.
some people, I mean, you're changing your music and stuff, but you're a responsible phone user. Not saying that I condone it, but I know the difference between. I got some buddies where if they grab their phones while we're driving, I pucker up a little bit, and I'm like, all right.
I
they're
think I
just
know
gonna-
this person,
They
too.
just need to change the song, and that's fine. And then I got some buddies that they do it, and they're. I'm like, whatever.
You feel pretty kosher about it?
Yeah, Jake's okay with it. Jake's good.
I don't text and drive.
Nah, but sometimes
You got to bump your
Song
subs.
needs to be changed.
Yeah. Or you have a sick Snapchat. This is just way too good not to film while I drive.
I'm pretty curious as to how many accidents happen because of Snapchat.
Look at
want
me,
to
I'm
think
sorry.
about it.
Think about it,
I
because
want to know how many accidents happen because of people eating cheeseburgers.
When are you
I mean,
going to
that's-
join Snapchat, actually?
When am I
When
going to
is
join
Bent
Snapchat?
Motorsports
Never,
gonna
because
use
I'm not
Snapchat?
14.
Bent Motorsports.
I'm
you're-
23.
You own a Twitter, so
I'm
what's
11.
the problem?
I know, we really don't use the Twitter. We should probably use the Twitter more, but Twitter's more for, like, commenting on what you want to do,
Not according to...
I
Never-
guess.
never
I don't
Oh my
mind.
know.
god,
I don't
guys,
get
we
it,
have to
man.
wire this taste truck today. It's going to be so
I barely
annoying.
get through the Instagram and Facebook guys to keep it up there. Now we're doing the podcast. This is maxing out my
If the
attention
president
span.
has time
Yeah.
to tweet, you have time to tweet.
If the president has time to tweet, he needs to work harder. Right?
That might be the case. I think.
Can I give the quick rundown of the auction?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
Moving on.
yeah.
Moving on.
So
Yeah, we never went back to that, did
Sorry.
we?
Yeah. we like to have fun.
It's something
Did we
that
leave
I'm
you hanging
really.
long enough?
It's something that we got a
been
couple of
pondering.
minutes. We might go a
Yeah,
couple
let's
over,
do
but-
it. Go do the recap.
So if anybody's ever, I've always wanted to buy a car at auction just because in theory it sounds great.
We have been talking about this ever since Road One was there, which was before us. So
Yeah. So you go there, and this is how our local auction works, but it's $100 deposit to bid, and they give you a list of the cars with the VIN numbers and the years. But guess what? Sometimes they're wrong.
Yeah.
So usually the VIN numbers are on point, actually. You get a pre-inspection, but the pre-inspection is not
You
much.
can
of-
look, but you can't touch, right?
No, pretty much like
like going to the strip
if
club.
If it's
exactly.
if
Give
it's,
him some money at the door, look, but don't touch.
if it's unlocked, you can like look inside of it and stuff, but you can't pop the hood.
Exactly.
I would do
So-
that right away. I'd just go in there, pop the hood, and then by the time you look, somebody might be there.
So the first time I went, I was trying to buy a 350Z, and I got yelled at by the people there. They're like, "You can't do that!" And I was like, "What is this?" Like, okay, interesting. So I went there this time. It was a really good. Set of cars too. So we checked out the cars. I brought my buddy Kenneth. Because I really do think you should bring a friend, because who knows, you might get googly-eyed over something that you've wanted since you were 16, or one of your older cars that you wish you never sold, like we were talking about, or just something that's really neat. And your buddy's got to be there to be like, no, don't spend $3,000.
Please don't do it.
Such
Don't
a bad
do
idea. Seriously, no, you rent, buddy. You got to pay rent this week. And you're like, no, I want a coupe.
But this car, it's right here. I swear, I can buy it.
So then they start running through them, and I don't know. My dad's taught me a lot, and one of the things is just like he's a poker player, so I just sat there and I played it cool, even though I was so nervous. I didn't even know if I was allowed to bid because they were like bidder 5, and I'm like, I don't have a bidder number. Like I'm bidder number 07871. Like that doesn't sound like that guy can say that.
Where's
very
my
fast.
receipt up there? This is my deposit receipt.
Exactly.
Make a bid.
So, first car that I like kind of wanted came up. It's what looked like a Drifter's 240SX with an RB20 from a Skyline in it, and that thing sold for $1,600.
Wow.
And after seeing that happen, I was like, all right.
But it had.
It sounded
other
like crap,
things.
and it was blowing white smoke, and so
That's fine.
But realistically, like if that ended up being something like some sort of recirculatory system that was bad, or I don't know, some reason that thing was blowing white
realistically,
smoke other than
it had a lot of
gasket
good
or
parts
something.
on
Jake,
it.
we'll talk
would've been
later
legit.
about what white smoke means.
And,
Okay.
and what a
It's pretty
recirculatory
definitive.
system is.
Oil.
Maybe his heart was beating too fast. The recirculatory system was bad.
Maybe somebody poured tranny fluid in the
I'm
carburetor.
hoping for the best, and it's like I don't know if that thing was legit, it would have been a good buy.
So that goes through. A couple
wasn't.
of low mileage, like newer cars go through, and those sell for a decent price. WRX that was badged as an STI but didn't have an STI interior, so I didn't believe it. Went through, that sold for $4,800.
Can we start
Most of
doing
the
that,
guys
by the
who
way?
were there, most of the guys who are there are getting these to flip. They have little body shops where
Yes,
they flip them,
yeah.
and then they get them back on the road and they make some money.
They're
or
they're
in the
flippers.
instance where you were there, where there were gangs and biker gangs there, they're trying to get their mule cars back.
Something like that.
So when they start
that's a good
bidding up,
idea.
you just let them buy them.
Who knows?
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're going to get smoked, right?
So-
Start doing that with our mule cars.
You got to be smart. You got to be smart about it, though. I was scoping a couple of the guys, and when they drive the cars up, like, you know, because you only get a couple of seconds on the auction block. Here's what happened with it, because I wanted to buy this M3 that was going in there. And by the time it got up there, they trolleyed it up there. It wasn't running or anything. So, and it wasn't unlocked. You couldn't check anything. So by the time it gets up there, the guy just starts rattling, like just 324, 325, 360, and it just starts going after it. And you're trying to look at the car. I mean, some of them, these dudes are swarming the thing, like checking the oil, knocking on stuff, listening to it, like telling the guy to rev it and all this crazy stuff. So you just got to be in the zone and be prepared and not be frightened by a bunch of other dudes swarming you, which in a usual situation, you're like,
Usually you're pretty comfortable with that.
very.
From what I've heard, I don't.
So yeah, it was at the end of the list was the car that I bought, and it was kind of like my backup car. I kind of saw it, and it was labeled as a 325i, and I noticed a couple of things, and went and stood over by the gate while it rolled up, and decided that
This I was for you and your
Thank
poor
you.
choices.
you're going to be having fun in this thing, but you have to listen to it. And I'm like, do I know the difference between valve tick and rod knock? And I decided that yes, I do. And I bid it, got it for $525. And all you do is like, you listen to the guy shout. It pauses on a number for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hits. He'll be like 400, 400, 400, and like he'll sell it after that. So you just go, all right, we're doing it, and like throw your hand up. He calls on you, and you officially you're the winning bidder.
That's pretty cool. Well, we're going to have to take you over when we do the to get our Jeep or whatever 4-wheel drive we can find. Any
Yeah.
4-wheel drive we can find.
Yeah. After that, you just pay for it. They give you the papers, blah blah blah, and you drive it away the same day if you want to.
Right.
So.
Or you
and-
have till the following Monday
To
you
pay-
have till the
yeah,
end of the
exactly.
weekend to pay it in full and pick it up if you don't
Yeah.
have all the cash with
If
you.
you want to decide this was a good choice or not,
I know, but you have to give
Just
them more.
take it away
You have to
from
give
me.
them more deposits though. So you give them another $100 right after you win the bid. So
sometimes $200
depending on how much
is
it is
worth
too.
it.
Because if it's even more money, you have to give them like $500 deposits.
Got it.
So they take the $100 from you at first,
and then you give another 100
at the end.
So
So
after you win the bid, you give them another round of money, and then when you go to pay the full price, they deduct your
your 100 from the beginning.
both your hundreds that you gave. You've
Okay.
given 2 deposits
So-
at this point.
Okay, I gotcha.
But don't be afraid of it. If you've got a good buddy that feels like can keep your head on your shoulders, and or knows a thing or two about cars. If you don't know a thing about cars, I wouldn't be too afraid of the auctions. I was super afraid of it for a while, and now that I've done it, I'm like, oh, all right, well, no, we're good to go. And I've talked to a bunch of other people, and they're saying like, oh, my dad always just bought our cars at auction. And I'm just like, that's neat. All right, let's do it.
I was kind of an accomplice for this. Is James called me and he goes, all right, Russo, look, I got this. It's a 98 M3 or something like that.
There was
95.
the M3 that already went.
And you're like, dude, it went for like way too much. I would have spent way more than I was comfortable with. Like, all right, so there's a couple other cars. Like maybe I'll go with this other 3 Series. It's like a 95. It's probably a 325, you know.
It was labeled as a 325i.
Yeah, and so
I wanted
Russo's
Russo's backup.
dude, I don't know, like I would maybe spend like $500 on it. Like I would probably stop there. And so he literally calls me and he was like, dude, I just bought a car. I just bought a 3 Series. I bought it. I would pay like $400 for it. Like he was like, I'm frantic.
giddy.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. He was like, can I come pick you up so we can go pick this thing up and we can go bring it back to the shop and see what's wrong? I was like,
I
yeah,
was just
all right,
funny
calm
because
down,
I
we just-
remember
calm down.
being much cooler about this.
It was pretty
You
frantic.
always
It was
remember it
pretty
like that.
frantic. I'm not gonna lie.
He just got done telling us all the cars he's bought throughout his life, and they're all $500 cars. Let's be honest. But this
Totally.
$500 car was
You're not
different.
wrong.
It was special.
Because he bought it
was
at an auction.
special.
Ooh,
but yeah,
fancy.
so
I get it, James.
So
I
he
get it.
picks me up and he brings me over there, and sure enough, they get this thing on a forklift basically and bring it over to you, and they go, well,
God.
here it is. Like, let's jumpstart it for you, and they throw a jump starter on it, start it up, and he goes, well, do you want to drive it? Like, you know a little bit more about these things. Like, go take it, back to the shop. So I was like, okay, getting this thing. Didn't even see what's in the seats behind me. Just jumped in, started driving it.
Wadded up underwear.
Yeah, it was. So,
I'm not joking at all.
Yeah, he's not.
I'm not joking.
Men's or women's?
It was
Women's.
women's, fortunately. So
Dirty.
That
Big
made
or
war.
small?
They were probably large or extra large. We'll see.
Nice.
We still have them.
They're washing them.
And so basically,
like
I'm driving
recycle.
this thing, and I'm like getting hard on the brakes, seeing if like any of the suspension moves. And sure enough, you step on the brakes, and the whole thing like shimmies across the road like it's on ice. And you're like, oh, okay, there's a couple things going on here.
Wow.
And so we got it. I mean, all the temps stayed fine. There was a little bit of a tickety tackety sound going on, so we have yet
lifters.
to address that. But yeah, I mean, we got it back, and sure enough, brought it around back, gave it a little hose down. We spent probably longer taking the trash out of it than we did giving the thing a bath, because there was just endless amounts of crap in the trunk, in the back seat. Like, I got out of the car and I looked in the back seat behind me, and I was like, why is there so much shit back here? Like, I didn't even realize it was back there because I got into it so fast. I don't know. Being at an auction, just driving a car away, that you feel like you're rushed. And so get in it, and sure enough, when we got back, it was just, there was so much stuff back there. And I mean, there must have been probably a solid 20 pounds worth of parts too.
Free parts and free tools.
There was free parts. There was like spark plugs
tools,
back
right?
there.
Oh, sweet.
There was
Just,
some, there was
clean and
valve
gap 'em,
cover.
you're
It
good.
was, there was quite a
You
bit
get
back there.
whatever's
There
in
was
it.
underwear, a lot of chips.
Do they fit you?
There was chips.
I didn't try them on, buddy.
Not yet.
I was worried.
yet.
I
There you
was
go.
worried of the gift that keeps on giving.
He was washing the car in the new chonies that he got.
All right, well, on that, let's wrap this up because I don't need that image anymore. So to wrap this up, I want the intro guys on the podcast. We've been putting some car noises in there, and you probably figured out the first one was a Chevrolet, right? That was an LS.
It was.
One, right? X?
LS3.
LS3.
But
Come on,
that
what do
was
you
in a
have?
65 Vet.
Which is neat.
And then the second podcast, we had a Mustang, Marty's Mustang, as a matter of fact. He
Bravo.
revved it for us. So on this one, we'll put in another one and see if you guys can guess what it is. If you want to comment or go anywhere and comment on what you think it is.
If
we'll
you guess
put
right,
another one.
you're going to win something.
Hint
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Miata.
If you guess right,
Kisses from David.
you'll win the new soundtrack that the shop's making.
Yeah, it's coming out. It's gonna be a Christmas jingle. It's gonna be great. You gotta
Yeah,
go
yeah,
love
It's
it.
gonna be great.
Yeah, I can't wait. All right, guys. Well,
jolly
until next time, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us
Or
on
sponsor
Instagram.
us. We love sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. Yeah,
So-
thanks again, Cal Spirits and Port Brewing. See
Right
ya.
on.
Yeehaw.
This has been the Bent Motorsports Podcast. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Bent Motorsports. Stay updated on the latest happenings, future projects, videos, and events here at the shop. Remember, guys, at Bent Motorsports, bids in stock, we've got it.